Hey everyone, happy Monday, happy Indigenous Peoples Day, happy Mindful Monday, Motivational Monday. But when you're here with me, I'm super excited that you are because you're here to be on the Other Side podcast where we're all about just being better people, learning, growing, especially focusing on the mental health side of this journey that we call life. So I'm just going to move something around. Okay, my name is Janelle Villiers. I am your host, and if this is the first time that you're checking out my podcast, please go ahead and put a 1 in the chat so I can shout you out. I want to shout everyone out who's brand new. Welcome. For those of you that have been here before that keep coming back because you love what we talk about, please put a 2 in the comments. So that way I know that you've been here before. I want to shout you out as well. Welcome, 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 welcome. Really excited to have you all here. So what is today's topic? As you know, I'm typically topic focused. I like to get us in, get us out as quickly as possible. I know I'm busy. That means you're certainly busy. And so I want to be acknowledgeable of all of that, or at least I want to acknowledge that and respect everybody's time. So today's topic is, should I be taking responsibility? I think this is a really great question. I think at first people might think like, well, take responsibility for what, right? Like, what is it? Context is everything. Maybe you shouldn't be taking responsibility for something that has nothing to do with you. And I agree with that. I certainly agree with that. And yet it had me thinking about all the things that were going on in my life or have gone on in my life, especially the things that went sideways or resulted in something negative or resulted in me having really negative emotions. And I want to sit with that really quickly. And it made me, so I thought to myself, okay, every single time that I felt really bad or a situation went wrong, or I'm feeling sad or betrayed or whatever the negative feeling is, right? The question that you then can ask yourself is like, should I be taking responsibility for this? Am I blaming anyone else for the way that I'm feeling right now? And the truth of the matter is, I think sometimes or many times we do blame other people for what we're feeling, right? And I can't be the only one. I know for me, hey, Brent, for me, one of my biggest realizations with that was, I'm just going to talk about it. I was married before. It was over 10 years ago now. And when we got divorced, I think I did a lot of blaming of him for a really long time. There was a lot of anger there. I suppressed anger. I tried to suppress it for a really long time. And then I don't know if anyone's ever attended Landmark Forum. Shout out to all the people who've ever done Landmark Forum. It's basically like a very intensive personal development kind of program that people can go through. And I remember it was the first time and here's the thing, all of my friends, all of my family, everybody was like, yeah, it's his fault. Like, yeah, it's him. Don't worry. Like you did everything that you were supposed to do. Like this, don't worry about it. Like it was definitely him. And that's all great and all, right? And surely, like, I guess it helped me, feel okay to be angry. Sure. I went to therapy, did the whole thing. But then going through Landmark was really interesting because it then asked me like, well, what role did I play in all of that? And I realized, man, I did play a role in some of this. It's almost like I let my power go because I didn't take responsibility for some aspect of how the relationship ended up working out. And for me, what I realized is like, man, I gave up my power because I could have stopped our relationship a long time before it got to the point where it was. We were married for 7 years. So that was where I had control. I had power. I could have said, no, year 4, year 5, year 6, even year 6.5. But I didn't. We got all the way to 7 years. And that's my bad because then I allowed for him to continue to treat me in a way that I knew wasn't going to be helpful for me, right? And so that was my responsibility. My responsibility in that, or the power that I had in that relationship, I gave up. And so if I'm going to take responsibility, I'm taking responsibility for the fact that I could have ended this a while ago. And I allowed myself to continue to live in that environment and in that treatment. And that's me. And what I can tell you, what was really interesting about that is how freeing that was. I think it's the reverse of what people would think. People might think like, oh no, see, Janelle, now you're blaming something. No. I'm not saying that I'm giving him an excuse for how he treated me. What I'm saying is that I had the power. It was my responsibility that I could have ended the relationship and taken myself out of that relationship way sooner. And that's on me. I take that responsibility. And I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it, except that there's a freeness in that. There's a liberation in that. Once you take that, you accept responsibility. It's almost like you're taking control of your actions and what you do in a way, whereas before you're like almost giving it to somebody else. And so I really wanted to, I hope this makes sense for people and people can relate. I really wanted to get into some of that. I wanted to talk about what is it like to take radical responsibility for things that happen in our life, even when we feel like, and everyone else is telling us that like, yeah, no, you're not responsible for this really bad outcome. But what if we were though? What if we flipped it on its head and thought to ourselves, well, where am I responsible in all of this? Because every relationship requires two people. So where can I put some of the accountability in myself? And so I really wanted for us to focus on that. And so the first area of that is, let's just talk about what this can do for you, right? So by taking radical ownership and responsibility for things, number one, it gives you empowerment. Like, remember I was telling you, I felt like empowered. I felt like I was disempowered by like allowing the relationship to go on when I knew I had the power to stop it, right? And so one of the number one things it does is when you claim ownership for something, when you take responsibility for something, now you own that, right? There's empowerment in that. You stop relying on external factors, right? And then you have now the control, the ability to make decisions to change your life and to change the outcome. So the other reason why taking radical responsibility is really good for you is that it helps with your personal growth. I mean, we learn a lot from our mistakes. So if you realize, wow, you know what, actually I could have done better there. I could have done something differently there. That's how you grow, right? That's how when you reflect on those experiences, that's what leads you to improve for the next time, right? So that self-improvement. And then thirdly, this really helps create stronger relationships, right? So when you take responsibility, when you radically own some of the things that have been happening to you, this creates trust and respect in relationships. I think people see you and they have more of a trust and a respect for you in those relationships where they're like, wow, they're taking responsibility, they're taking ownership, like, my bad, like, this is on me, I'm taking ownership for this. Like, just think about every single time you've ever been in a relationship and someone has done that for you within the relationship, right? Like, how much respect grows for you when you see them do that, right? The trust that's there. So I think anytime we're in a space or in a relationship with someone who's willing to take responsibility or ownership for what's going on, that speaks volumes about who that person is. So let's now talk about how can we let go of blame, right? How can we now take that responsibility? Number one, I would say really, really start to focus on solutions. Blaming others, really honestly, guys, just wastes time and energy. There's within Japanese culture, for example, like within a company, let's say, right? So within a company, something goes wrong. I think here in America, if something goes wrong in a company, everyone's trying to look to see who did it, who made the mistake, and let's go at that person, blame them, probably fire them, or they get some sort of warning or whatever that is, right? Punishment. But in Japanese culture, it's not about who made the mistake. They want to know what the mistake was and then how they can fix it, because they realize we spend a lot of time blaming other people and that just wastes time and energy. When we could take that same energy, that same time and focus, and then instead put it on the solution. And if we put that energy and focus on the solution, right, then we can actually create the change that we're looking for instead of wasting the time on blaming other people. So that's another thing. That's, I think, one of the biggest ways in which to stop blaming other people is when you put your energy and your focus and your time onto finding solutions. The second way that you can start to take radical responsibility is you want to do that, especially when you're trying to gain, it helps give you clarity. Let's just put it that way. A lot of times when you're blaming other people, there's a lot of like anger. There's, again, a lot of energy put towards, oh, this person, they did that to me. They did this, right? And it can create almost like a fog in your brain of like negativity and frustration. But when you take responsibility, you're like, nope, actually, this is on me. I did this. I got myself here. Then all of a sudden that frees up some emotional and mental space. And this allows you to think clearly in order to make better decisions, right? So you can focus on solutions. And then the third thing that I would say is a way to do this is you basically, now that you have the clarity, you're able to take control of your circumstances. You start to make better decisions for yourself because you realize I'm responsible for this. Like the buck stops with me. So that means I'm going to make decisions differently now because I can't blame this on somebody else if it goes wrong. So if this comes down to me, that means I'm going to make better decisions. I can't even tell you how much that does for your self-esteem. So that is definitely something, again, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, why we should do things like take radical responsibility for things. I think one of the biggest things is that it really does boost our sense of self and our self-esteem. So what are some practical tips that we can use to help shift our mindset so that way we can reclaim our power? And number one is practicing self-reflection. You guys know, we've been talking about this a lot here. Awareness, self-reflection, looking within, that is huge here. I'm not going to set aside a lot of time to focus on that because everyone here already knows that this is really important. If you can't name it, then you can't tame it, right? So I think it's really important that we reflect, that you self-reflect on actions that you've taken, decisions that you've made. These are all really important steps towards that self-awareness. So that way you can, right, name it to tame it. So that way you can move forward and do some things differently. Then I would say you want to reframe some of those negative thoughts. So catch yourself when you start blaming other people, that negative, oh, see, they did this, they did that to me. Why did they do this to me? Then start thinking, okay, well, where do I come in all of this? Where do I fit in? And could I have done something differently that maybe would have resulted in a different outcome? So catch yourself with those negative thoughts that involve other people and start to look, again, you're doing the self-reflection. Okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is where I'm at. How did I play a role in getting to this place where I am? And then the second thing is make actionable goals. Like, okay, well, you know what? And small, let me be clear, really, really small things that you can actually achieve, not like big, hairy goals that you're like, oh, no, if I can do it. No, I mean like small things that you can actually do and that you can maybe even measure. And these certainly help with the momentum, right? To reclaiming your life, to reclaiming the decisions that that you can make. So little things. So if we were to put this into context with my relationship, for me, I recognize like, man, I had a role in that. I could have ended this relationship a long time ago. I allowed him to continue to treat me this way without leaving the relationship, right? There were no consequences for what was happening. And so, okay, well, if it's me, once I realize, oh, it's me, I can make this decision, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, actually, I can make the decision to end this relationship. I don't have to wait for him. So that way I can blame him, right? Then now I'm making a decision. And I'm reflecting on, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm going to do about it. I can't wait for anybody else to do anything for me. I've got to make this decision. And then I move forward and I go ahead and make the decision. Now, in this case, we're talking about ending the relationship. But even after the relationship was over, like I said, there was this freedom, this like the fog, the negativity, the blaming, right? All of that went away. And then I was able to see where I fit in. So then it was like, okay, moving forward in my next relationship, I don't want to exhibit X, Y, Z. I know I can do things differently because if I keep doing the same thing over and over and over, it's the definition of insanity. But if I continue to do what I did in this relationship that didn't work and ultimately had me feeling small and just not in a good place, then like, okay, so then I need to make different decisions. So that way I'm not in an environment or with somebody who creates that type of environment that's not one that's positive, right? And that lifts me up in that way. So I get to choose to love to is one of the things I love that my mentor says, right? And the reason why is because there's like I have to, which feels burdensome. And then there's when I get to and I choose to. That's choice. That's power, right? That's you bringing power and responsibility to your decisions and your actions and things like that. So I highly stand by the I get to choose to, I love to do XYZ. In what have that mindset when you're thinking about what you want to do, and flipping the mindset from blaming other people to, you know what, I choose to do something differently. I get to choose to think about myself differently in this situation and recognize that there is nobody else to blame in this. Like, where do I fit in this? How am I responsible for where I've ended up in this negative situation? Those types of things start to free you up to think of solutions and, again, creating different decisions. So I hope this was helpful. I know we've gone over a lot. Bren, thank you so much. I see True Freedom, that this is relatable for you. If you're watching on the replay, hey, Tennille, if you're watching on the replay, let me know if you're watching the replay, if this has been really helpful for you. And I'm just going to do a quick recap, right? So today we've been talking about, should I take responsibility? And I'm here to advocate for taking wild, audacious, crazy responsibility or ownership, right? Radical ownership over the things that have been going on in your life. And so the benefits of doing this is that it creates empowerment, it helps with personal growth, and it creates stronger relationships with the people that you're in relationship with. And how to go from blaming others to making different decisions is one, you want to certainly practice self-reflection, understand what's going on with you. Then you want to take away the focus on others and start to focus on the solutions, right? So instead of who's to blame, think of like, okay, how can we solve this problem? Once you start to take the blame away from other people, but start to see where you can be responsible, this allows you to then have better clarity. You have the reduction of this like blame fog that kind of like happens in your brain. And you can reframe some of those negative thoughts. What could I have done differently? Where do I fit in this situation? Again, so that way you can ultimately look for solutions. And the bottom line with all of this is that once you're able to have those things in hand, it really does help with your confidence. It helps, again, like I said earlier, it really helps to make the relationships that you're in stronger. And this will help you get to those small little micro goals, right? Those small little actionable goals that you can get, again, further just uplifting your self-confidence in who you are and whose you are. So that way we can just continue to grow and be better as people. This is all about growth. It isn't about an end result or an end to the journey. It's all about the learning and just continuing to grow and improve and just do better as people. So I'm all here for the radical ownership. I'm all here for it. If this is something that you want to incorporate in your life, let me know how you're going to incorporate it in the comments. I love to read all the comments. I write back, I promise. Please, we're a community now. We're doing this together. If this has been valuable for you, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. This tells YouTube that this is really helpful, and it will continue to share this with more people. Yes, Bren, radical ownership. And if you really, really want to support, it's free. All you have to do to support is hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss another episode, and make sure to like this video. Even subscribing is free. It doesn't cost you anything to support. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.